Talking about the banking trends, it would be inevitable for us to first look at what the drivers for these trends are. And if you look at the drivers quite carefully, you would find there are four types of drivers. The first, obviously, is the digital disruption. It's everywhere. You see it all around us. The second is the kind of customers that one is experiencing today, the millennials or Gen Y as we call it, who demand immediate gratification from product, and there is the power of now as they call it. The third, I would say, is where we go with regulations, necessitating a whole bunch of differentiation that banks need to have in the way they render their services. And the fourth is competition that never existed before in the form of what we see as new age fintech players, microservices, laser sharp services, but offering what would be disruptive in the nature of what they service. From a corporate banking and institutional banking context, you see the impact is primarily from the way customers are being dealt with. You don't see those services to be the same as before, which was more lending focused. You see them to be less lending and actually what would be seen as more services. And the second, which is again a common refrain that every bank is now looking at, is to create what is seen as a digital marketplace. A marketplace where both suppliers, the demand and supply are getting together and being discovered from a price point standpoint. The third, I would think, is customer experience. Talk about digital onboarding of customers, talk about offering a completely new channel where customers are experiencing what would otherwise not have been offered at all. And you see that differentiation coming in the way of digital services, which is again looking at customer experience there. And the last point associated with that is how you see pricing and fee, differentiated fee for different segments playing an important role. This is again not to suggest that you never had fee income as a category in what would have been a bank's balance sheet before, but you see them not to actually be associated just with the product, but you see them getting associated more with the customer and the micro segment the customer belongs to. Banks that were successful with SME banking required to have a large footprint. No longer. The digitization has helped them to reach out to SME customers much better than what it used to be. You see transaction banking all pervasive today. Also driving what would be a new way of scoring, measuring risk for these customers. Being able to offer micro products that are oriented to those specific industry segments. And lastly, also making a difference from a specialization standpoint. So banks could choose to actually play a certain segment or an industry where they could actually be more end-to-end and be specialized and not necessarily being limited to the geographical presence, but driven by what would be the digital presence. The impact on the digital front is across the board. Digital banking has made the maximum impact on the retail banking customer, be it the segmentation, be it the micro products, be it in just the experience being offered to the customer from an omni-channel standpoint, or for that matter, be the operational controls that need to exist now, which is driven by straight-through processing, where there is no manual intervention. Be it a pure play digital bank or a digital arm of a bank, you find the need for actually having a straight-through processing in there. And last but not least for sure is the change that one is seeing from a cost of compliance standpoint. Risk is an area that has seen huge impetus both in terms of time and money invested by bankers. Cybersecurity is a case in point. You see the norms of Basel and GDPR and you name it, be it AML or KYC, and every single regulation that is in there is causing bankers to lose sleep in the way they not just need to manage risk, but also be compliant with the law of the land. And the world is getting flat, so the land is not just the country they belong to, but what would now be seen as the rules of a flat world.